Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up, and I am indeed up. Good. Come on. Good. So I have an interesting talk that I want to do today. And I have an interesting talk. At least I think it's interesting. I have a thought, and I want to expand upon the thought. Now, the thought is, and this sounds like a lot of wood to chop, but it's not. It makes sense. All structures seek to persist themselves. All structures, no matter what those structures are, they seek to persist themselves. Now, what I mean by that is, anything that has pulled itself together in some way, some kind of organization, once it gets over this kind of certain threshold, and let's define our terms. That threshold being some kind of environmental factor that pushes against what that particular thing is trying to do. This thing is trying to organize itself, something pushes against it, whatever's pushing against it, everything expands into some other medium. Like nothing expands into a vacuum. So what I mean by that is, if we're having a conversation of, let's say, I'll give you an example. Private property versus, anything that I myself draw a fence around is excluding somebody else. It's almost like those things float in a certain medium. So whatever that thing is that's being built, whatever that thing is that's trying to organize, that thing is trying to organize and is being pushed against and acted against by some medium. So whatever that medium is, whatever that threshold is, once it overcomes that threshold, it will seek to persist itself. Now, the fact that it can overcome the threshold in the first place means that it has some level of cohesion. This is not just physical systems or physical forms. This also involves perceptual forms. So everything from the arrangement of your car, the way your car is put together, to a student union, to a government, to a party, to a company. The physical things is in one particular dimension, but the perceptual things are the ones I want to talk about. Those are more interesting to me, because whereas the physical things are put together by, however the technology is, the perceptual items are done by agreement. That's it. It's done by agreement. That agreement is either implicit or explicit, meaning the person either agrees, just kind of, I want to go along and get along, or the person actively agrees. The people who form a student union, well, those people are actively agreeing to form a student union. The people in the corporation, that person agreed to form that corporation. And your government, those people agreed to form that government. The society itself agreed implicitly to abide by whatever takes place in that particular government. Now, this implicit and explicit agreement is kind of interesting, because at a certain point, you go along to get along, at least from a societal standpoint. From a governmental standpoint and from a party standpoint, the rule still applies. All of those systems that are in existence, that have gotten to some level of organization, will seek to persist themselves. So the DEA would never tell you that you need to get rid of drugs or you should legalize drugs, because it's the DEA. DEA wants to keep its job as an organization and wants to seek to persist itself. Just the way it is. I mean, you'll find that this rule applies for damn near everything, any perceptual system. We agree that this is a thing, and so this is a thing. That's done by agreement. That's done by agreement. Adding to this agreement, there's an odd quirk among human beings. I don't know if this is an odd quirk among other races in the galaxy, but at the very least among human beings, that if something is in existence, the longer that thing is in existence, the more justification it has to be in existence. It's almost like the time it's been in existence is a certain level of legitimacy associated with it. It's as if the persistence of the thing in and of itself demands that the thing should continue to persist. Now, this, of course, is insane. It's like saying a company that had horse and buggy should persist because, regardless of the technology that came out of cars, they should still persist. Now, in a business case, those things usually go out of business because they can't necessarily compete. from a governmental stance or from an organizational stance, like a business stance, or not a business, I'm sorry, like a political thing or social groups, those things tend to persist and those things tend to linger. So you can blow up the DNC, you can blow up the RNC. That doesn't necessarily stop the unit itself from existing. Those things are perceptual systems. That being said, perceptual systems are acted on through the physical environment, even though the medium itself is not necessarily in the physical environment. That's fucking fascinating to me. Like, so that student union or that group, the Flat Earther group may get over a certain hurdle and say, okay, we exist. And those people will go to the Flat Earther group until something happens, in which case those people lose interest. Those people are acted on by some kind of physical force. So yes, you can disrupt a perceptual thing by acting on a physical system. That being said, sometimes acting on a physical system doesn't necessarily stop the thing. Those things are perceptual. If there are 20 people around that believes in that particular thing, that thing is going to exist regardless of you blowing up the building. You can blow up the White House. The government hasn't gone anywhere. The perceptual system is by agreement. The longer those things are in existence, the more legitimacy those things have. I'm saying that's insane. Something's legitimacy doesn't necessarily come just because a thing is in existence. Now, this sounds like a lot of wood to chop, but I kind of want to make a point. The reformers and the people who want to change the DNC, part of the reason that you believe that the DNC needs to continue to exist, part of it is the Republicans, that's true. But part of it is this kind of human fallacy that just because something is in existence, that thing should persist. It's almost like you've become so familiar with the item that you can't necessarily live without that particular item. Fair enough. You guys want to change the party. Fair enough. Fair enough. Those people need to understand that the best case they have to change the party is external from the party itself. If you ask the Democratic Party if the Democratic Party should exist, the Democratic Party says, yes, I believe that we should exist. Well, of course they're going to say that. All items and all systems wish to persist themselves. So you can't necessarily rely on what that particular system is saying on whether or not that particular system should exist. The test of legitimacy. It's the issue of legitimacy. The test of legitimacy. Does that particular system, whatever that form, that structure, does it pass the test of legitimacy? That's twofold. A, are people supporting it? Because again, this is done by agreement. If you don't necessarily have enough people supporting you, you're going to lose politically. And B, is that system fulfilling the obligations that that system is supposed to fill? Meaning, the DEA, is the DEA locking up drug dealers? Yes or no? That's the job of the DEA. What is the job of the Democratic Party? And does that pass the test of legitimacy? Particularly when you're talking about A, are they winning? That's the first part. But B, the things that they're supposed to philosophically represent, are they representing those things? And if that answer is no, then it seems to fail the test of legitimacy to me. I don't think I'm crazy on this. I want to show something. Yeah, let's see if I can show this. 6 in 10 Americans don't have $500 in savings. Now, the job, the side that's supposed to represent this idea of workers, poor, 99%, that side, 6 in 10 Americans don't have $500 in savings. If your car accidentally breaks down, 6 in 10 Americans would not be able to get that car fixed. Now, here's another one. This one is old, but this one is still to make a point. The United States is an oligarchy, not a democracy. The United States is dominated by a rich and powerful elite. So concludes a recent study by Princeton University by Professor Martin Gillens and Northwestern University Professor Benjamin Page. This is not news, you say. Perhaps, but the two professors have conducted exhaustive research to try to present data driven to support this conclusion. Multivariate analysis indicates that economic elites and organized groups representing business interests have substantial independent impacts on United States governmental policy, while the average citizen and mass-based interest groups have little to no independent influence. In English, the wealthy few move policy while the average American has little power. The two professors came to this conclusion after reviewing answers to 1,779 survey questions asked between 1981 and 2002 on public policy issues. They broke the responses down by income level and determined how often certain income levels and organized interest groups saw the policy preference enacted. A proposed policy change with low support among economic elite Americans is adopted only 18% of the time, they write, while a proposed change with high support is adopted 45% of the time. On the other hand, when the majority of the citizens disagree with economic elites or with organized interest groups, they generally lose. Moreover, because the strong status quo bias built into the U.S. political system, even when fairly large majorities of Americans favor policy changes, they generally do not get it. They generally do not get it. The last Democratic administration gave 95% of the wealth to the top 1%. Over and over again, through the past, 40, 50 years, one policy after the next attacked labor and in no way represented the interests of labor, even though labor has been beholden to the Democratic Party for the past God knows how long. Just because that system of cooperation has been in place, essentially the Democratic Party getting your support and you getting nothing, or their apathy, their loving apathy, just because it's been in place for God knows how long doesn't mean it should persist. Length of time does not necessarily indicate a reason for something to keep going. That's my point. And you can keep going with that. You want to talk about climate change, like climate change legislation. You want to talk about the Wall Street thing, where Democratic Party protects Wall Street from an angry population. One thing after the next. One thing after the next. Where's the legitimacy in this point? I'm just trying to make this argument that what the Democratic Party represents as being essentially, if you take them as an independent thing and you judge them as an independent thing based upon the things that they say they themselves represent, they come out miserably lacking. They come out miserably lacking. The reason they come out miserably lacking is because, like anything else, they look for ways to advantage themselves. And it was easy to kind of take on this thing of, hey, we can say these things. And because we're less bad than these other guys, people would actually think we believe these things, because from a relative standpoint, it looks like we believe these things, but only in a relative way, not necessarily if you take them as individually. And I would also make the case, unions and workers have been decimated under the things that the Democratic Party's put out. I understand Republicans are horrible. Fair enough. But they represent their horribleness. The Democratic Party lies. They lie. They say one thing and they do something else. There's a reason for this. And I want to make this point. Let's look at this guy again.
So much so, it drives me nuts. So much so, it would make me quit the party.
And I've made it very clear, I'll cut your money off.
And others will do the same. We've had enough.
Okay,
we need a new brand.
And what is that brand? Because right now there is an opportunity. If Democrats lose, for example, in the state of Virginia, if that isn't a wake-up call that the Democratic leadership needs to get together and say, we've got to find a middle ground. Because if the Democrats continue to go far to the left, you've got that whole group in the center that aren't going to go the way of Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. And then you're going to fracture the party even more.
It's fractured. It's broken. We need a new brand. It needs to be simple. Keep it simple. Tax reform, keep it simple. Infrastructure, no bumps in the road. What more do we have to say? They need to have a new brand created.
Is the Democratic Party in worse shape than Republicans?
They're both insane.
Continue to say.
That snarling plutocrat is also part of the Democratic Party. They think that the party needs to move further to the right. This mythical center. There is no mythical center. You represent your values. You don't do it for political reasons. I'm making this point that you are sharing the party with that snarling millionaire. That guy has all the money in the world. And he is snarling. How dare they? How dare you bring up these issues of class? Shut your mouth about class. Me and my class, my plutocratic class, will shut our wallets. If you say anything else about class, you need to drag your ass back to the right. You get those Elizabeth Warrens and those Bernie Sanders in line. Shut up about class. Shut up about class. You're sharing the party with that guy. You're sharing the party with that guy. Now, the fact that you're sharing the party with that guy, you didn't always share the party with that guy. At one point, you had actually a party that represented the interests of the middle class. They did this because they were terrified that there was going to be something from their left. After the Cold War, that thing from their left, there was pretty much a ceiling that was put on the left based upon this kind of red scare hysteria that took place. I'm just making this point that when the Democratic Party said we're a big tent, the point is not to be a big tent. You have a very specific interest to represent. Republicans have the interest of the plutocrat. That snarling guy should be in the Republican Party. He's like, we need to rebrand the Democratic Party. Yes, you should be a Republican. You should be a Republican. It doesn't fit you because you should be a Republican. Now, I'm just making this point that if that guy is in the party, how on earth do you believe that party is going to represent your interests in any way when that snarling guy don't even let him bring up class? How dare they bring up class? Foaming at the mouth. Is all the money in the world and he's foaming at the mouth. Shut up about this class stuff. Shut up. I will close my wallets. I called Chuck Schumer. I called Nancy Pelosi. He had their phone numbers. I don't have Nancy Pelosi's phone number. I don't have Chuck Schumer's phone number. I'd imagine you don't either. That snarling guy does. What do you think they talk about when that snarling plutocrat calls Nancy Pelosi and tell them to shut the fuck up about this class stuff? Shut up about this class stuff. The point is, if you're in a party that has that guy in the party and you also have this other base, the base, that's very clear what the base represents. The base says, I have a humanist perspective of the world. I don't give a shit about that plutocrat. I have a humanist perspective of the world. That base despises that plutocrat because that base knows that's a greedy asshole. How do you, as the Democratic Party, balance those two sides? You say one thing and you take the cash. And you use political rhetoric to cover your ass. Now, your flank is covered because Republicans are horrible. As long as there's nobody to the left of you, you can make an argument that you're the left in this country. This guy hates the class argument because he understands that the class argument adversely affects his interests. Something that adversely affects his interests, however, probably does not adversely affect yours. You have a situation where you have workers in the party, and you have the plutocrats also in that party. You can't have it both ways. You can't serve two masters. It makes perfect sense that these guys are using plutocrats to get rich, essentially get their cash in order to run their campaigns. If you think they're taking that money, what do you think they're doing for that cash? That study that I just read for you makes this point that these are the guys who have influence in the party itself. They have influence in the party because they're taking cash and they expect things for that investment. As workers, what do you think your bosses want for the investment that they give the party? And do you think those things would likely adversely affect you in order to enrich themselves? I would say it's self-evident. Now, my original premise, structures like to persist themselves. Just because that thing exists doesn't necessarily mean that that thing needs to continue to exist. And I would argue that this applies to the Democratic Party, particularly when they lose legitimacy or lose their basis of legitimacy. That's my point. That's my argument. This has gone long, but I just make this point. How on earth do you expect to change something that seeks to persist itself, that uses this human trick of legitimacy based on how long that thing exists? It's a human trick. It's a trick of the mind. It's a fucking insane idea, but it's something that as human beings we look at. This thing has been around for 50 years. So what? Doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be around for 50 more. Your stick, your brick, your bat, your crowbar, whatever you want to pick up, is allowing that party to understand that it loses. And in every loss, a little bit of its legitimacy ebbs away. Your stakes and your influence, meaning the dementors, goes up with everything that they lose, meaning every election that they lose a little bit more legitimacy. Your best chance of changing that party is for that party to full well believe that it has lost all support. That's your best option. I have yet to hear an argument to tell me why I'm wrong on this. I've yet to hear it. And I'm going to end this because this has gone remarkably long, and I probably chopped a lot of wood to get to that point. Look, an argument can be made for both, if we're being honest. You know, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King was emboldened by Malcolm X. He was. Now, maybe not necessarily, you know, they intentionally. And yes, they were necessarily working in tandem overtly. Like, they weren't necessarily, like, working together in this sense of overtly. But from a cosmic perspective, Martin Luther King looked a hell of a lot more attractive than Malcolm X. Malcolm X scared the shit out of people. I don't know if you've ever heard Malcolm X speak or Malcolm X debate. He is terrifying. Man, it's terrifying. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying he's terrifying. You hear that compared to Martin Luther King, and your society comes to the conclusion that, okay, we need to change. Which change is better? I'm making the point that if you actually want to save the Democratic Party, being willing to leave is the way to do it. That's if you want to save the party at all. Your issue, however, I mean, keep in mind that does break up a certain front. But your best way to change the party, or your best way to save the party, is being very clear that you're willing to leave the party and not necessarily just being this abused, pitiful, pathetic spouse that just keeps hanging on. You know, it's like kicking you off and you're still like dragging on them, holding on to their legs. Please don't go. Don't leave me. I can't live without you. This type of insane, embarrassing attempt to change the party in that way. I would say strength. I would say being monstrous and being willing to say no and let it fail. It's not pretty. It's not necessarily sexy. But I would wager that leaving that agreement alone, is your best chance to change it. It has no intention of changing anything unless it thinks it can lose. That's all I'm saying. They're going to fight you tooth and nail. And in 2018 and 2020, look, all I'm saying is being willing to walk is your best bet. Being willing to walk is your best bet. Your spouse is going to respect you a hell of a lot more if your spouse doesn't see you as some lackey that would never leave in any situation. So, I'll leave it at that. I'm bitching. What do you call losing 1,000 seats? I call it not enough. I call it not enough. That's what I call it. You want to take the party dish from the top down. We want to take it over from the bottom up, and we're doing that. I understand, Terry. I do understand. I understand the plan. I understand the strategy. But you do understand that the way you compel the party to change is by the party actually understanding that the party could lose. And the party is not yet at a point. Look, you can call this a game of chicken. Fair enough. Call it a game of chicken. You just need to be willing to go over the cliff. That's all I'm saying. And they need to understand that you're willing to go over the cliff. Meaning, losing 1,000 seats is not enough seats. And them understanding that, oh my God, we're going to lose another X number of seats. What we're doing doesn't work. Us trying to monkey around with the system doesn't work. What they understand right now is that people would, despite being cheated, despite being fucked over, despite being shamed and yelled at and lied to, despite all those things, At the end of the day, you can still scare them into voting for Trump. Meaning it doesn't matter what we've done. We don't have to own up to it. We don't have to admit that we did anything wrong. We can just move on. And if people are scared enough, they'll vote for anything. Status quo forever. Status quo forever. Look, that's my opinion on it. I understand this idea of trying to take it over from the bottom up. Fair enough. I'm not against it. I'm not in this camp of, never voting. That's not my camp. I've always made the point that you vote for people who represent your interests. If there's somebody for our revolution that's running, if there's somebody for Justice Democrats that's running, if somebody for brand new Congress is running, I don't necessarily like they have a D beside their name, but if it's somebody that represents your interests, yeah, vote. Vote. Fair enough. But the institution itself is problematic. And I understand the reformists. I get it. I get it. But I'd argue that the Demexiters is your best weapon. I argue that that is your best weapon. To me, what they say, and they're useful to acknowledge their wrongdoings, just exposes them to more and more. That's true. But they did do it. Like, come on, Terry. How, if you can't even get the party to admit it did anything wrong, why should anybody ever go back to the party? They've lied, they've cheated, and they just now want to move on. We don't want to talk about it. And I understand. Look, it's like, oh man, if we mention that, if we own up to that, it exposes us to attacks. What's going on now? It just looks like they're lying. It just looks like they're lying, which is worse. Which is worse. We want change, and we want to start for change now. Yeah, agreed. Don't go. I can't take a punch. Get rid of superdelegates. Yeah. Yeah, Terry. Yeah. How about that one? What about the superdelegates? So, Terry, I take it you're a Democratic reformer. God bless. And I want to answer to this. I don't want you to fade away all of a sudden and just it's like, oh, she's gone. The Unity Reform, the quote-unquote Unity Reform Commission is coming up. It's coming to an end. Now, I've contended that they lied through their teeth about being united, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous that you needed a Unity Commission if you're united. It's Orwellian, and it's paradoxical, and it's forming in and of itself. We need a Unity Commission. We're so united. We need a Unity Commission. Okay. That means you're lying to me. That means this is a facade. If that thing ends, and they still have superdelegates, Deborah Wasserman-Schultz has said the reason they have superdelegates is to keep out grassroots. That is the most undemocratic thing I've ever heard anyone admit to. Republicans at least lie about cross-checking all this other stuff. She was honest. Now, if they keep that at the end, meaning this thing ends, they still have closed primaries, they still have superdelegates. Should anyone vote Democrat at that point? Meaning, are you willing to accept the fact that they are rigging the process just from a mechanics standpoint? We're going to put our thumb on the scale with who we want to come into this particular process. That's what superdelegates are doing. If they still keep that, are you still supporting Democrats? Because ultimately, what that would mean is, we understand that you guys were complaining, but ultimately we say we're moving on, and that's what we're doing. We're moving on, and we're not changing squat. And now that people's eyes have been taken off the ball, back to normal, status quo. Do they still get your support after that? I'm curious about that. I really hope Terry's still here because I'm curious about that. I'm immensely curious about that. Notice an establishment mind trick. 1. Repeat a lie for a year. Craft a human truth that fits the Bale's once believing the old lie. That's called orphan belief and a logical fallacy. Jamming to Usher, let it burn. That's funny. Notice an establishment mind. You know, Republicans do this with guns also. Somebody gets killed, Republicans will say, hey, it's too soon to talk about it. It is too soon to talk about this. There's no point in politicizing this. There's no point in politicizing this. And then after a while, well, we need to move on. We need to move forward. We can't keep looking back at this stuff. It's a tragedy. Only God knows why those things happen. Yeah. Democrats do it too. JT, this is a repudiation of Bernie's strategy of hope and change for the Democrats. Yeah, I don't. Look, is it possible the Sanders strategy is right in this kind of reform the party? Yes, it's possible. I could be completely wrong and talking on my ass. That is absolutely possible. What I am saying is not the word of God. But come on. Is your strength increased or decreased based on their failure? And if Bernie Sanders, and yes, he is attacking the party, and I understand he's attacking the party because he wants to drag the party over to where he is. If he gets out of this, meaning if the Reform Commission ends, look, I made the point that that's a battle. Each one of these things are battles. Bernie Sanders opened up an attack on that particular process, essentially saying you need to get rid of superdelegates and we need to open up our primaries. You have all these people who haven't been able to vote. We need to let those people vote. That's an attack. He understands that if that doesn't take place, meaning if that thing is still in place, when he comes around again in 2020, he's still going to have to go through a rigged process, a process that's fundamentally rigged from the way that process is built. He understands that his chances go down if that process remains in existence. So his political piece opened up an attack on that process. And I'd argue that whether or not he's successful, meaning the thing that shows whether or not what he's doing is showing success, is whether or not the Unity Commission gets rid of or minimizes the impact of superdelegates in those primaries. That's almost like a litmus test to some degree. It's almost like a litmus test. If Sanders doesn't get it, that means the Unity Commission was a sham, which is what I think it is anyway. And ultimately, you have the same process going into 2020. We will know in December. That's when the Unity Commission ends. Repudiation of his strategy is too strong right now. It's not enough time. It's not enough time. He started our revolution, and our revolution have been taking back seats. Fair enough. Now, that's pretty amazing, seeing as our revolution has just started. So, look, they have my support. Have at it. All I'm saying is, if you want anything to change, being the subordinate partner in a relationship where the other person, for the most part, always believes you're going to be there, the abused child of the bunch. I can beat you, I can kick you, I can do whatever I want to you. And when you see your friends with a black eye, oh, I ran into a door. I ran into a door. That's what my wife told me after she voted for the Democrat. I ran into a door. I ran into a door. It's like, wow, you came out that voting booth with a black eye. I walked into a door. I just walked into a door. Those doors be flying out of everywhere. They just hit you in every moment. Aren't you sick of that? I like lefties and independents. All of those people, for the most part, who goes to the polls and vote Democrat. And they're not doing it because they want to. It's like they're doing it purely because they're scared of the other guy. And I am making the point that when you're placing that vote, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton herself are looking at you in the face and saying, you have no choice but to do this. Where are you going to go? Nobody else loves you. Nobody else wants you. I understand that I beat you and I kick you, but every so often I fix your dinner. Where are you going to go? You wait at home. I'm going to go out fornicate with that snarling plutocrat. And for the most part, I know that you're going to be back here because in every situation, you never leave. That's sad. That's just sad, man. That's sad. I've had friends that were in abusive relationships, at least verbally. It's sad. It's sad. That's all I'm saying. It's sad. That's all I'm saying. The two parties are political theater to keep people distracted. Yes, they have to feel threatened legitimately to even consider change. Agat Dale Chomsky, yes. You are wise, sir. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes, yes, yes. I think Green's votes were flipped. Trudy, that's possible. Benji, it's pretty cool and respectful conversation, usually pretty pre-formed. If you have a lot to say, go challenge those people, us, and say it. I don't know the context. TB Enriquez, I am seriously disappointed in people that demexed it and still voted for Hillary Clinton. Was it 60% of burners? Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. They were terrified. They were scared. Come on, they were scared. They ran. Hillary Clinton's campaign took aim at Trump as being the goddamn apocalypse. The world is going to fall apart. It's like demons are going to raise from the earth and they're going to start eating babies and puppies. And, you know, people who are fixing your meals are not going to wash their hands. It's like just all sorts of weird stuff that was coming out. So yeah, those people were terrified. And then you had Bernie Sanders coming out saying, vote Hillary. I know I said she was a crook. I know I said she was corrupt, but I need you to vote for this corrupt person now. So yeah, they were terrified. In fact, I saw the thing that said more Bernie supporters voted for Hillary than Hillary supporters voted for Obama. It's amazing. Yeah. The sad part is she still lost. You had to sully yourself with that vote. It's like, oh, just throwing up in the voting booth. And then you find out she still lost. The indignity of voting for that. And she still loses. Oh, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. I voted for the noble Jill Stein. I voted for the noble Jill Stein. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Either our votes for Jill were flipped or they are a whole bunch of progressive liars. Oh, you think they're just saying after the fact, like, I voted for Jill Stein to feel tough? I don't think they would. Well, maybe. Yeah, I guess, maybe. I guess being in the sandbox, I guess some people would. Part of me feels like they would say they voted for Hillary and try to defend their votes. But I don't know, man. It's possible. Depends on their sandbox. We need to unite under double Waltzman Schultz. Yeah, that's Garden. Garden. Krishan. But their vote was stolen. Green Party numbers should have been much higher than in previous elections. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, look, you might be right. Some of those people might have. Look, let me say it this way. If we're making the assumption, or if people make the assumption that the vote totals cannot be proven one way or the other because they're in the machines, then yeah, anything is fair game. At that point, anything is fair game. Votes should be hand counted just to avoid shit like this. Yeah, it should be hand counted. They build vote shaming into the population. It's remarkably effective strategy. Yeah, it is. No, it is. And it's wild. All of these Hillbots, all these Hillary supporters would be like, there's a cold place in hell, or there's a special place in hell for a woman that didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Or seeing Robert Wright going against Chris Hedges for either to vote for Trump, vote for Hillary Clinton or just abstain from the vote was a fascinating conversation. But all of them had the same playbook. I understand that she's bad, but Donald Trump is worse, and so you need to vote for the Democrat. And Chris Hedges will make this point like, you understand that this can't go on in this way. You're talking about your status quo forever. You can't necessarily continue in perpetuity in this particular fashion. You're being scammed. And Robert Reich is like, I know Hillary Clinton, she's a nice woman, and we need to resist. We need to resist. And he's getting indignant when Chris Hedges is just kind of making this point like, how are they different? They're not as different as I think as you're trying to make them out to be. You know, yeah, vote shaming is built into the process. Hold your shape. Even if you voted for Hillary Clinton, hold your shape. I don't necessarily blame people for voting for Hillary Clinton. I think they were cowards, but I don't necessarily blame them. I know that sounds harsh, but yeah. You're talking about two separate things. Voting and taking over a party. Those are two separate things. Agreed. We can do both. My daughter voted for Jill Stein in the general, and I supported her decision. Oh, isn't that nice? But you're right. Those are two things. Voting and taking over the party. But let's not pretend they're inextricably linked. Like, what do you think voting is? Voting is giving your, I want this particular person to be in the process. That is voting for a particular party. taking over the party. How are you going to take over a party if you're not going to get elected? That's voting. Yes, they're two separate things. They're two separate devices, but those two devices work in tandem with one another. Come on. Come on, come on. Let's not pretend they're the same thing. Your power increases when that party no longer has legitimacy to getting office. So yeah, those things may be different as edifices unto themselves, but those edifices work in tandem with one another. They're not separate and distinct. I smoke 2 jokes in the morning, Augur. You do it, in the Garnome. Agate Dale Chomsky. That was an excellent impression of Robert Reich, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Garnome. Yes, Trudy. Debbie, the populist Palladian Schultz. She is modern Joan of Arc. Augur Sabinar, you missed my sarcasm. Marlon. I trust a machine to accurately count paper ballots before a human hand count. People can make mistakes or even cheat. Marilyn, that is true. It's almost like, how do you foolproof the process? I don't know. August Cybernaut, if progressives had interpreted that purge correctly, there would now be a move taken from Steve Bannon by concentrating down on down ballot races. Yeah, that's a good point, Augur. Keith Ellis and Purge. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Garnome. No, I didn't, Augur. I smoked joints as a song lyric. That's funny. Trudy Garnome. Ugh. Yeah, that Purge, man. Come on, Terry. You gotta level with me. Just level with me on this. At which point, what's the thing that needs to take place for you to be like, okay, I can't support this party? And is there a thing? I'm being honest. I'm being serious. Is there a thing? Like, is there something where you will finally say, okay, I'm done. I'm done. And certainly you see that the party believing that there's a mass of people that will no longer vote for that particular party and they have no capacity to win an election will force that party to do one or two things. Persistently waste money losing or changing. Or changing. Do you think FDR just was FDR for no reason? FDR had people that was on his left. There were other parties that were pushing the Democratic Party to the left. They didn't have a choice. Or they did have a choice. They had a choice to go bust. I'm saying, if you want change, it has to come from the left. And it has to come in a threatening way, meaning that party can implode or that party can go under. At the very least, it can't win. That's my point. Some people would let Hillary shoot a kid in the face if a man get rid of Trump. I know that's sad. That is sad. John Crab 67. I voted for Jill. I helped restart the Green Party in my state, Alabama. Mostly it was a waste of time. Instead of focusing on helping Jill, they spent time attacking Trump instead of Hillary. If you're from the left, you need to attack Hillary at that point. Like, you need to attack the Democrat. Yes, you can attack Trump, but ultimately the person who you're trying to take down is a Democrat. Those are the people who are trying to get those votes from. The problem is, people feel they're penalized for voting for the Green Party or for a third party. Meaning you need to overcome the hurdle of legitimacy. It doesn't have to be real. People just have to believe it, if that makes sense. Like, the test of legitimacy is whether people believe you're legitimate. That's amazing. There's no there to it, but it's true. August Cybernaut, leave Terry alone. No. Terry can hold her on. Benji Jamal, the Democratic Party, theoretically, if it were to legitimately clean house, would stand a wonderful chance. Without that, far less concerned is hopeless. The media needs radical change too. Yeah. Yes to both of those, by the way. So, the reason why I'm making this point to Terry is I understand that they'll be open to attack, but does the Democratic Party believe that people don't know that they cheated? The overwhelming majority of the population believes that they cheated. So if you're running a campaign against reality, I mean, ultimately that's what you're saying. The Democratic Party is running against reality. But they made this decision that, look, people don't have a choice. It's them or us. We can move on. We can move on. And that's not a good place to be. That's my point. If they full well, look, they already believe that you had nowhere else to go. If they believe that they can purge you, they can get rid of you, members like you, literally getting rid of you from the top echelons of the party, even after starting this bogus unity commission. And if they end this unity commission and you don't get any concessions, real concessions, by the way, not bogus stuff, real concessions, superdelegates, primaries. All I'm saying, man, at which point? That's all. At which point? At which point? August Saberman, what? What do you think Hillary would win today? I don't think she would win. Do you think Hillary will win today? I don't. People dislike her. Like, it's I know this sounds bad, but it's true. People dislike her. People dislike her. And I think the public would balk at her running again. I think even Democrats would balk at Hillary Clinton running again. Yeah. We need to repeal the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Night Wolf, what is that? 16. Hey, another Democrat, by the way, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton. Oh, I will look for that. Maryland, everyone should vote like they do in Oregon by mail, paper ballot, and no standing in line. Yeah, Maryland, but that still doesn't, you know, that doesn't guarantee that the process is not monkey with. Like, I understand. I would prefer a hand tally as opposed to putting it in a machine. That's the first point. I don't know if voting by mail is any more secure than voting in person, but the standing in line thing, yeah, I agree. I agree. Trump isn't quite toxic enough for Hillary to win today. Agreed. But maybe by 2020 they will have dragged him down enough. Yeah, I agree with that, Gardnome. Like, so they tried to make Trump out to be this goblin and this monster. Now the thing is, Trump is just a Republican. Like, the things he's been doing in that office for the most part are just Republican, right-wing, batshit, you know, appeal to the rich stuff. He's been incompetent at it. But it's Republican stuff. So it's like everything that he does fits in the context of what they've made him out to be. But what they've made him out to be is just a Republican. So yeah, I think people would balk at the idea of Hillary running. Regardless of what they think of Trump, they would balk at the idea of her running again. So are there good machines or is a hand count to go? Personally, I think hand count is go. At least for me. Robert Pouquet Ray. Debbie was smug when she announced they don't want grassroots in their party. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, but she was honest. Like, being smug, yeah, she was being honest. We don't want these grassroots in our party. We want our thumb on the scale. Yeah. Jay Scott. What? Have you seen Trump's approval ratings? Yeah, Trump approval ratings are in the toilet. But are you telling me that if Hillary Clinton ran again, the public would say, all right, they cheated once. She had all this power. She's had a book tour called What Happened, where she blamed everybody except herself for losing the race to a reality show host. And at this point, they can't cast Trump as anything other than Trump. Like, beforehand, they could make Trump out to be this goblin because Trump hadn't taken office. Trump is in office. Trump has been doing just regular batshit crazy Republican stuff. I think people would balk at Hillary Clinton running again. I honestly do. Honestly do. I understand Trump's approval ratings are in the toilet, but if there's one person on this planet that Donald Trump could beat, that person is Hillary Rodham Clinton. It's not your vote that counts. It's who counts the vote. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. John Crabb. I don't like Hillary on election night. I was thrilled that Donald Trump won. I'd rather Jill had won, but so glad Hillary lost. Went around high fives, so Trump supporters. I wasn't that thrilled. Don't get me wrong. I was in this thing of, I was catatonic like everybody else. I mean, I didn't necessarily want Hillary Clinton to win, but I wasn't thrilled that Trump won either. It was this kind of, oh my God, what the fuck does this mean? No, I wasn't thrilled. It's not the word I'd use for it. I voted for Jill Stein, but I was not thrilled. This was one of those Hobbesian choices. Neither choice was a good choice. You're stuck in this thing of, ugh. That's where you were. Just like, ugh. That's where you were. That's where a lot of people were. So, but high fives, no. Did I get a thrill seeing Hillary Clinton supporters shattered? Yes. Yes. When I went to work and I saw the Hillary supporters and they averted their eyes, did that feel good? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. These guys said bad things about me. They told me, oh, you need to fall in line. Oh, you need to vote for Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump is a maniac. I can't believe you're going to vote for Donald Trump. You're going to cause the apocalypse. You're going to cause the apocalypse. How dare you? You're just angry. You're just pathetic and angry that you lost, that your guy lost. Oh, the burners, the bottom dwellers, bottom dwellers. You better fall in line and vote for Hillary Clinton. Your beloved Bernie Sanders said vote for Hillary Clinton. You need to vote for Hillary Clinton. You need to vote for Hillary Clinton. What was the other thing? You're just jealous. You're just selfish. You're just a child. You're just belligerent. You're big, pathetic. You're being sore losers. That was the other one. You guys are just sore losers. That was no cheating. You guys are just sore losers. Just sore losers. You need to fall in line. That's what you need to do. Yeah. And having this thing within me that was pristine and that was untouched by all of their battery and all of their bad words, I whispered no. I whispered no. And I told them that your candidate is going to lose. Your candidate is going to lose. People don't like her. Your candidate is going to lose. I didn't see the states that they were going to win, but they asserted very strongly and vigorously. Huffington Post said it's 98% lock. That's what Huffington Post says. Well, I have to believe Huffington Post. Huffington Post never lies. So yeah, it's 98% lock. I don't see the states, dude. You guys are assuming that the public is bright enough not to elect Donald Trump. I don't make that assumption. I don't see the states. I think you guys are going to lose. And you're going to lose because you cheated Bernie Sanders. That's what I told them. That's what I told them. I've said it on multiple occasions. If the system needs to burn because these guys want to game the system, then the system needs to burn. I am okay with letting that take place. It's not that I love it. It's not that I want Donald Trump in that office. But there's something fundamental about not cheating somebody in a democratic process. It's just fundamental. I don't know how you get over the hurdle. It's like, are you honestly that terrified where you're willing to give up, your representative government in the process? Fuck that. If we're at that point where in order to not put a maniac in that office, I need to give up the democratic process, then yeah, man, this needs to burn. This needs to burn. We're at a particular point where something needs to change. Yeah, I'm ranting. I'm ranting. Trump honestly represents oligarch. Yeah, yes, he does. Democrats, this honestly does the same thing. Yes, it does. The fault is with mainstream Democrats. It's not just mainstream Democrats. Democrats are acting in a systemic way to advantage themselves. Of course they're going to do it. When you see somebody who's that batshit crazy, of course you're going to be less batshit crazy as a political strategy. It's just politics, political strategy. And it's the same reason why Republicans always bitch about the budget. They don't give a shit about the budget. They don't care. It's just a proxy. It's what they use to get to the point of conning people into giving them tax cuts. It's a political strategy. It has nothing to do with reality. Democrats used to, at one point, represent that 99%. That wasn't just political strategy. It's unfortunate, but the Democratic Party actually needs to represent something in order for them to be a party. They have a philosophical responsibility that they are not living up to. The dog pees on your carpet. Do you give him a bone? Do you give him a bone? Garden, I know you do. You articulate your plan. Many others just keep talking about 2016 and have no clue what to do next. I would say what to do next is to the very least start with the process of no. That you're not going to vote for each and every person that they put up. That's what I would argue. That's more of a plan than what I've seen some of these reformers come up with. I am not against people trying to take back the Democratic Party, so don't misunderstand me. I'm just making the point that your best shot at doing that is having a third party scare the shit out of them. That's my point. The Dem Enter crowd needs the Dem Exit crowd, believe it or not. And you probably should strengthen the hand of the Dem Exit crowd if you have any chance to have a Dem Enter. That's my position. They don't give a shit about the budget. They care about the donor cash. Yes, political influence. They are unconcerned with public policy in general unless it facilitates these goals. Yes. Yes, all of this stuff is political strategy. They've gotten to the point where they've gamed the system in a way where they understand that people like the Democratic reformers will vote for them regardless. So from a political standpoint, you don't have to do squat. There's a reason Hillary Clinton didn't go to Wisconsin. She didn't care. She didn't care. She assumed they were going to vote for her because they voted Democrat in the past. She assumed wrong. She assumed wrong. Yeah, agree, Garden. If Hillary runs again, it shows how business will throw their unlimited Cayman Island money at anything that'll help them. Yes, that's true. That is true. I agree. August Abernard, the purge of Bernie Bros was a signaling you guys should have interpreted to burn the house down. DEFCON 4 and pitchforks now, but it seems most are content to see what happened in 2018. Yes, 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 yes. I could not agree with you more, Augur Cybernaut. Yes. Yes, agree. Agree. Wholeheartedly. Absolutely. 100%. Unequivocally. Agree. I agree. They don't know when to walk. They don't know when to walk. Your husband comes back home, wasted. Smell of another woman on him. Do you know when to walk? Do you know when to walk? These guys are holding marriage counselors. Do you know when to walk? That's the point. You're right. Democrats are permanently cucked. It's not Democrats. It's the reformers. Like, look, the Democratic Party, it can be whatever it is. The cucks are the reformers. The people who are trying to change it. Those are the ones who are standing by and let them do anything. Let them do anything. I want you to stand here while I have sex with your best friend. Okay. 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 I want you to stand here. And look, you can add whatever colorful analogy you want into that process. The reformers are the guys who's standing there while it happens. Yeah. Varoufakis spoke of the same thing in Greece. He left folded. Yeah. Even when they were in power. Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Oh, Mark P, I fucking love you. So, there's something that the left needs to fundamentally understand. When you get the opportunity to express yourself, you need to do it fully and unequivocally. And that doesn't necessarily mean backing down. In fact, backing down is the worst thing that you can do because it exposes you as a fraud. It exposes you as a fraud. When in Greece, they have a referendum. The Troika is putting pressure on them to essentially, they want them to, Greece was in debt. They wanted Greece to essentially sign on a dotted line. And they wanted to overrule the Greek people in that particular government. It was almost as if the Greek government was a rubber stamp. They just want them to rubber stamp it. Now, the Syriza party started with pretty much the same support as the Green Party in the United States. And they were saying, no, we're going to get in that office. We're going to rebuff Germany. We're not going to take this shit from anybody. We're Greece, God damn it, we're the home of, democracy, all this good stuff. And they got in power. The left-leaning group, the left-leaning party, swept into power. They had a referendum. What do the Greek people want to do? What do you want to do? I will let the Greek people speak. If the Greek people says sign on the dotted line, we'll sign on the dotted line. But we are going to represent the interests of this particular country, whatever that interest is. We're the goddamn left. We're going to be the left. We're going to hold our shape. And they had that referendum, and the public, like 60-something%, said, tell Germany to go fuck itself. Collectively. Think about that. An entire country. Tell Germany to go fuck itself. We're not folding. We're not folding. Later that night, the government folded. Later that night, that resilient left folded. They folded. They shut their banks down and they folded like a cheap suit. Varoufakis had ideas and plans that he wanted to implement, and they told him no. And they made him leave. And they folded. And this right-wing government, this left-wing government, with all this hope and with all this promise and with all this energy and verve, and they had a country behind it, was essentially doing the same austerity that the other governments were doing. You know what's coming behind that group? Golden Dawn. You think Trump is a Nazi? These guys are real Nazis. These guys are real Nazis. If you have the chance, man, you have to express yourself. What would have taken place if that government would have went through what Varoufakis said and essentially not knuckle down and come up with contingency plans for what took place. At the very least, the left would have been representing the interests of the entirety of that country. Instead, the left in that country is broken. And you have this left-wing government that was elected with all this hope and promise, doing the same austerity as the other governments. If you have the opportunity to do something big, you do it. Otherwise, you're going to be embarrassed. Think of Obamacare. Obamacare right now is essentially under assault, and the healthcare prices and everything else are spiking through the roof. That's associated with the left. That fucked up healthcare plan is associated with the left. When the left has opportunity to do something, you need to do it. Otherwise, it's going to be attacked relentlessly by the right. Medicare, Social Security are here for a reason. They work, and people love them. Otherwise, they would be under constant assault, and they are under constant assault. Medicare, Medicaid, etc., etc. Post office, constant assault. Under constant assault. But it's still here. I'm saying those systems that are still here are resilient because those systems work. Obamacare is susceptible to assault because Obamacare is fucking complicated and it doesn't do what it needs to do. Meaning it needs to get rid of, it needs to be able to take care of healthcare. We shouldn't have these conversations about healthcare. If the left is going to do something, it needs to do it right. Otherwise, it's going to be susceptible to relentless assault and attack as the right tries to claw back the gains. Yeah, good point. Immensely good point. The EU made the Mediterranean countries indentured servants. Yes. If the left doesn't hold, the right will rise. Yes. Agreed. 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 Absolutely agreed. Yoo-hoo, Germany loaned the money to buy nice German-made trinkets. Yeah, no, Germany, Angela Merkel pulled a fast one. So, the money that Greece had, that money never went to Greece. Like, the money went to pay off German and French banks. Angela Merkel came out and said, hey, we need to do something about Greece. Let's loan these poor people. You know, these poor, lazy Greeks. Let's loan them some money. Let's help them out. Let's do them a favor. What Angela Merkel wasn't saying was that she wanted to do another bailout, which is essentially bailing out Greece was bailing out German and French banks. She used politics to attack that particular country because she didn't necessarily want to own up to the fact that she was bailing out her own country and her own banks. It was unpalatable. Red Economics. Hell yeah, cut the show. Hell yeah, welcome Economics. That didn't come out right. But welcome. Welcome. Skip Rock. EU has pancreatic cancer. It's only a matter of time. There's nothing that can be done. Yeah, they're in bad shape. They don't own their own currency. Like, states, for the most part, have to balance their budget in the United States. The federal government is undisputed the government. The laws and everything else have been worked out with regards to the way the United States works, states and federal government. The EU is trying to fold in a bunch of countries and treat them as states. And they don't necessarily have the economic or the legal apparatus to do that. Not to mention, those people aren't necessarily elected. Those people are chosen. They have a problem with democracy in the EU. So yeah, I agree, Skip. Benji, if Obamacare was better, it wouldn't be as repealable. People wouldn't let it happen. It's getting more and more important in healthcare. Yes, 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 yes. I love my audience. I love my audience. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Agreed. Left and right, it's an illusion, but it's the paradigm to which most people converse. Inbred trick is to use that to attract numbers. It is a trick. I mean, but it's a trick that's perpetrated by the country itself, if that makes sense. Like, it's what you're not a separate and distinct thing from your environment. That's my point. Like, the things that you believe, the things that you talk about, those things are not natural in the sense that those things just pop out of the blue. That's your society to some degree. Your society instill those particular behaviors and those ideas. Those things don't come out of a hat. It's like if you're born in Nazi Germany, you're born a Nazi. Is what it is. There may be ranges to your behavior in regards to how much of a Nazi you are, but you're still a Nazi. Your personality, the things that you believe in, the culture, all this stuff, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you hold yourself, those things are bred into you by the society to which you exist in. Stuff is an illusion. You think the way you think because you're taught to think the way that you think. Yes, there are ranges, But ultimately, those things are environmental factors. Your political apparatus and your media are gaming you. They're gaming you. It's a scam. It's like they hold a certain amount of political thought. They have you thinking a particular way. But the thinking is only done to persist the system that you're in. All systems like to persist themselves. Same thing with this kind of political media apparatus. Those things end up creating like an avenue for them to interact with one another. The things that they perpetrate, they perpetrate a perspective of the world. Part of the reason they disliked RT was because RT upset that particular apple cart. But yeah, they're giving you a perspective of the world. They want to persist that perspective. So MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News, for the most part, are all the same thing within certain ranges of one another. Yeah. Hey Jamal, are you rejecting that election fraud from the election voting machines isn't real? So you're saying St. Progressive was wrong? No. I believe that there was election fraud in those voting machines. I don't trust those voting machines at all. I don't think anybody should. Those things are hackable. Because those things are hackable, yeah, I don't necessarily trust it. I don't trust it. When you had there was one of the was it Arizona, where the people went to kind of make the point. It was like they were reviewing the election totals, and yeah, one person after the next that would stand up and say, hey, when they recounted those election totals, it didn't match the hand counts at all. Fuck is up. The election board hearing testimony saying that the hand counts and the election counts were wrong. Other people will say they changed the hand count to match the machine totals. It's like, well, what is the point of the count if you're just going to change it to make those things match? I heard them say that on the news, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, you're changing the count to match? That's fucking insane. That's election fraud. On its face, that's election fraud. At the very least, it looks like you have a massive recount in order to make sure why don't these things match one another. These things should match. It's fucking insane. Yes, I think there was election fraud. I don't believe it. I don't believe the totals. I mean, I love the response to the person. They were like, do you have some kind of degree in statistics? Well, what do you mean do I have a degree in statistics? I can look at the fact that these things don't match. Do I need a degree in statistics to tell you that 2 is not the same thing as 10? It's like, come on. Even the recounts weren't matching. Like when they were trying to get the recounts matched when Jill Stein was contesting an election. So no, I don't trust those things at all. I don't trust them at all. Not to mention, the counts were never matching the end result. So it's like New York. You would go in, you would have a count, the exit totals weren't matching in the least. And then when you get to California, they're like, yeah, we no longer need to do this. We no longer need to do election totals. Yeah, shit is extraordinarily sketchy. Extremely sketchy. They're playing misinformation and information overload games. Yes, agreed. Truly, yes, it's not just the elections that are rigged, it's the entire system. Agreed. Exit polling was fucked up as well. Yes, agreed. And then in California, they're like, we no longer need to do exit polling. What do you mean you no longer need to do exit polling? What are you trying to hide? What are you trying to hide? You've done exit polling in every other scenario, but now all of a sudden you don't need to do exit polling because people are focusing on exit polls. Everywhere else is 2%. In the United States, they can fluctuate wildly, but we don't necessarily want to interrogate our system. Imagine that. Like, imagine the indignity of John Kerry or somebody else looking at somebody else's election and being the determining factor on whether or not somebody else's election is intact. But our election system is in tatters. And these guys are pretending as if our election system is the gold standard. They are insane. They're insane. They're on drugs. If you're going to say that Russia hacking us was the most important thing in the history of things, and that somehow changed our election results, so much so that an investigation needs to take place into Russian hacking and all this other stuff. This stuff is insane. It's insane. They tried to say the same thing about German elections. It wasn't the case. Investigation, it wasn't the case. Tried to say the same thing about French elections. It wasn't the case. This stuff is a myth. It's a myth. You know what adversely affects elections? Attacking other countries. Meaning when we destroyed Iraq, that fucked up their elections, by the way. Completely toppled their government. It wasn't this kind of $150,000 to Facebook. But this is the arbitrary, ridiculous stuff these guys are saying. having a hissy fit that the person who they chose, Hillary Clinton, didn't win the election. It's amazing. Part of me, if I'm being honest, when Donald Trump won, my heart leapt. Part of me was terrified. Oh my God, this guy's a fucking maniac. He's in the White House. It's $1 trillion military given to reality show hosts. But part of me also felt these guys, from the moment that Hillary Clinton lost in 2008 in the primaries, they took one step after the next to get her in a position to run in 2016. They assumed Obama would win in 2012. And so they thought, in 8 years, we're going to get you in a position to launch your campaign. I'm going to put you as Secretary of State. You're going to come out and you're going to tell your Hillbots to support me. I'm going to put you in as Secretary of State. And in 4 years, you're going to have a high profile. People are going to know who you are. And when people are in the Secretary of State positions, oftentimes they get favorable publicity. And that's what they did. They did everything they could to launch her off in 2016. They had chosen the person that they wanted to win. They chose the person they wanted to win. So when Donald Trump won, my heart leapt. My heart leapt. Oh my God, this guy's a maniac. He's in office. But at the same time, oh my God, she lost. She fucking lost. The American public made a choice. Good. I would rather the American public make a bad choice than the Democratic Party rig the system to make a choice at all. If you're rigging it, I don't want you to win. I don't want you to win. So yeah, it's not that I love Donald Trump being in that office. I do love the fact that Hillary lost. I do love the fact that she lost. You don't get to choose who you want. It's not the fucking job of the party to choose the candidate. Think about that shit. I don't care what the public wants. We're choosing her. It's her turn. It's not. It's not. She lost the reality show host. It's embarrassing. Let's not forget, part of the reason behind the Russian narrative is so our elections questioned before international bodies so we can claim foreign interference. Yeah, agreed. Agreed, no. H. Del Chomsky, suppose it'll be ironic if Trump ended up being a Russian plant, considering Putin is actually an American plant. Putin is not an American plant. Putin is not an American plant. I don't believe that. Mind fudge me there. Yeah, agreed, Skip. Agreed. She lost me on that one. Jude, it's enough to have one schizoid. Mark P. Mainstream politics remind us of the trajectory of free software movement. Our media got bought out. AstroTurfing happened and idealizing was gone in favor of money making and company fanboyism. Yeah, that's true. But look, I would make the point. It's a philosophical point, but I would make the point, and I think it's true. In the same way I made the argument about systems and how those systems try to persist themselves once they reach a certain threshold. Meaning once they get over the kinetic friction or the kinetic social friction or whatever the medium they're expanding into. Once they get over that, and once they're shown for the most part that they can persist, be it intellectual systems or physical systems, there is... Wait. Let me make sure I'm saying this right. Yeah. Once they get over that, dependent on the medium that they're in, there's still systems that oppose those systems. Particularly when those systems are fucking up. Meaning when those systems are showing weakness, there is friction. Like it's not a situation with that particular system. Like, how can I say this? It's almost like every system is in an existential struggle at some point. Or with something. Particularly intellectual systems or conceptual systems like politics, like parties or companies or whatever. If those systems show themselves to be illegitimate, there are going to be forces trying to take those systems out. Whatever that thing is at war with, whatever that medium is, that thing is functioning in, there may be other things trying to undo that particular system. In this case, once the Democratic Party started to show wear and tear in regards to its legitimacy, you had something that was trying to cannibalize it. It doesn't matter what it is. It seems to just be this kind of ever-present thing that something is always opposing something else. Meaning that system, whatever medium that system is functioning in, the thing that structure, I should say. There are other things opposing that particular structure. It's functioning in some medium. It's functioning in something. In the case of the Democratic Party, that particular system has shown wear and tear based on its illegitimacy, its failures. The failures are showing weakness. Those weaknesses are being opposed by other forces, meaning the original, the old school Democrats. The existential struggle with Democrats is not just the Republican Party, it's also the items of what the Democrat represents. It's failure. It's failure, for the most part. It's bringing on a certain amount of illegitimacy. It's being challenged. There's this hegemonic shift in what it means to be a Democrat, or at the very least there's an attempt to make it a shift. It's either going to beat back that aspect of the party, or it's going to have to be changed. Now, the change is going to take place either externally or internally, meaning that thing is going to change or it's going to implode. This can't be both. If it goes the way that it goes, meaning it's making an argument or it's making a bet that it doesn't have to change at all, this is kind of my reason of saying you shouldn't support it. Like, if the bet is we're not going to change at all because we don't have to change because people are just going to end up coming back around to us in X number of years, how do you get past that bet? Like, how do you get past them if they're doing that? Which is, I would argue, what they're doing. Look back at what Nancy Pelosi was saying after they lost. Status quo forever. Because the other person is so connected, they don't necessarily want to leave. And they can't fathom a life outside of this crack-smoking, drug addict, fornicator. Don't be pathetic, man. That's all I'm saying. Strive to be more pathetic, more than pathetic. Look, I would say, though, it is natural as natural could be that forces are at work undermining something that's failed the test of legitimacy. I think it's natural. It seems to be this natural principle of the way things are. It's always at war. Like, there's no stable thing. There's always something inside of that thing, like forces being acted on at some point. Particularly when you're talking about perceptual systems, like intellectual systems, like parties or companies. Those things are always at war with each other. I think we still had oversight over Osama post 9/11, either directly or indirectly. Most of us money and bank accounts were controlled by us. Gardner. Red economics. I don't doubt it, Gardner. I'm far from convinced that Osama bin Laden planned 9/11. Dale Chomsky. It's always been a game of chicken. If you keep swerving, you always lose. You have to force them to confront their morality. I think you're trying to say their morality. Oh, their mortality. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I keep using this analogy because it fits perfectly. It's like the guy beats you, cheats on you, sniffs crack, is somewhat of a heroin addict, and you are always there. You're always there. Beats you, throws you down the stairs. You're always there. I can change him. I can change him. He has a good heart. I can change him. He has a really good heart. You guys don't see the heart. You don't see his heart. Okay, good luck with that. Good luck with that. I would say, though, any chance that you have on changing him is a result of us, not a result of you. It's not a result of you. It's fear that gets them to change. The medium is politics, meaning fear of losing. Pitchforks or dollars. Pitchforks or dollars. You either win outright, which means you need resources and everything else. And if you have that, God bless, do your thing. But the pressure to make them change, yes, you may put pressure on them if they think they'll lose. But the pressure to make them change comes from knowing they'll lose. Meaning knowing they don't necessarily have the support that they need to actually win. That's your pressure. That's your break. That's your bet. That's your bet. Once more Americans have nothing to lose. The shit can hit the fan now. People are hanging on and don't want to give up the what little they have. Agreed. Agreed. Soothing incrementalism. It's that soothing incrementalism. It's like, oh, things will be worse. So I will settle for things are being bad. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. All right, guys, I am going to end this. I appreciate you guys showing up. Look, I really need to stabilize this, like a specific time. I am just bad at doing it. Yeah, I'm just bad at doing it. These politicians ain't any better than a back alley mugger, and you don't stop a mugger by asking politely for them not to rob you. I love my audience. Yes, agreed. Please don't mug me, sir. Please don't mug me. Please. I just need you to act right. Please act right. Please do better. Please stop doing heroin. I just need you to stop doing heroin. My mom is asking about my black eyes. Please don't hit me. Are you going out to see that woman again? Why are you doing this? Yes, I am going out to see that woman again. Yes, I am going to smoke that heroin. Yes, I'm going to have sex with this hooker and you're going to watch. Yes, I am going to snort coke. Yes, I'm going to the casinos and stay out all night. Yes, I'm going to take a dump in the floor and you're going to clean it up. Because ultimately, I know you're not going anywhere. I am the Democratic Party. And you are the reformer. The noble reformer. Good luck. We definitely need a progressive magnet. Gotta get together. Agree, Trudy. Notice an establishment mind trick. Repeat a lie for a year. Number 2, lie to fit the bias that linger from once believing the old lie. This is called an orphaned belief, and it is a logical fallacy. Jamal is describing his fantasy life. I am describing the Democratic Party. This is my analogy for the Democratic Party. I am trying to make this as brutal as I possibly could be, because I'm trying to get across the grim reality that these people are dealing with. But look, I will hold my judgment. I will reserve my judgment, because I am a fucking awesome guy. I will reserve my judgment until after the last meeting. The quote-unquote reformist meeting, where they're going to the unity meeting, where they're going to make some decisions on superdelegates and primaries. I will reserve my judgment. He fantasizes about being a complete asshole. Oh, that's funny. Last meeting is when again? I don't remember when. It's sometime in December. Yeah, sometime in December. So we will see. The reformers. We're gonna reform the DNC. Yeah, we will see. Good luck with that. Like I said, man, I am not in this camp of never vote for a Democrat, nothing like that. It is a hurdle to do so, but I'm not in that camp. You vote for the individual that represents your interests. You vote for the person who you believe will hold their shape. That's my point. That's my only point. And if that person is not on the ballot, then that person is not on the ballot. They need to understand they can lose. That's all I'm saying. They've lost 1,000 seats, and they've only doubled down. Think about that. They've lost 1,000 seats, over 1,000 seats, and they've doubled down. Are you ready to drive off the cliff? Just hold hands. Let's go. Let's go off the cliff. If you're not willing to go off the cliff, then you're willing to settle for each and everything that comes up. That's all I'm saying. Rob Illinois, Jamal, you're right there. Always something that will undermine its structure. Have you noticed every time the establishment throws a new neoliberal, they get thrown in the dirt? Yeah. James, welcome. Paper ballots are rocket science. Paper ballots are not rocket science. Paper ballots are just this. Nice. Check out Unity on Rick and Morty. Yes, Unity on Rick and Morty is fucking awesome. It's fucking awesome. Garnone, fuck that Unity conference. It's a damn pony show. It is a damn pony show. And I want my pony. I want my pony. God damn it. Democrats are Thelma and Louising it. Yes. That's what I'm saying. They're Thelma and Louising it. We're less worse. Less worse is Thelma and Louise. What are you willing to do? Do you want to let those maniacs take office, or you want us? Let's go riding down the road. Let's see. Who's willing to flinch first. Trouble is, the party makes it hard to hold your shape. So much pressure. Biden pressured Hillary to vote for the bankruptcy bill. I'm not saying it's hard. I'm just saying it's necessary. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's necessary. Who do you represent? Who do you represent? That's the question. That's the question. The answer to that question is going to inform your behavior. Who do you represent? Who do you represent? Know who you are and wear it like armor. Here's your pony, Jamal. Another chance to vote for Hillary Clinton. Dax, corn broom can clean a floor as well as a Roomba. I didn't hear the beginning of that one. Alright guys, I am going to end this. Guys, thank you for showing up. Of course, you can always support the work through Patreon, like the video, and all that good stuff. Thanks everyone.